This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, thanks. So it's an ongoing sort of theme of professional registration with the PWI, and it's interesting, which we talk about registration for rail infrastructure engineers. It's nice to see a small group of us today, but it's about I think today it's about encouraging others to apply. And so if we're working with others who are thinking about it, I'm going to sort of try and encourage you to ask about how you can help as well. So, I think it's probably easiest if I just go through the slides and then we can get perhaps to the end a discussion about how we can, anyone wants to have sort of individual questions at the end, that's not a problem, or how we can, as a sort of, some of us have been in the industry longer than others, how we can support others. I'm quite keen to roll it out that we get people to support others. Okay, so thanks for that introduction, and Colin. He says, why is that not working? Oh, so yeah, we all know about the established in the 1880s, fantastic. But the sort of key strat word we're using nowadays, PWI, working with the rail industry to enhance knowledge and skills, which I quite like myself. And because working with, I work with Brian Counter as well, the technical director. We do lots of training and development now, and it's opportunities for all. This is a key thing. And the other thing that we're about to say is we're now licensed by Engineering Council to professionally register engineers. So I was on a meeting with the Institution of Civil Engineers this morning, and it's interesting that they're sort of branching out a little bit to increase their members. But we're here for the rail industry, and we're here, and I like this. Now we're using this, you know, we're providing a lifelong support for a lifelong career journey for members. So that's what we're offering to people. That's what I would ask senior engineers on this call. You know, you can encourage them to sort of say to younger engineers, come with the PWI for your career. And we provide continuous support for individuals on their career and for the rail industry. So when you're out there saying how great the PWI is and why people should join us, I think these are some of the messages be good to carry forward. So, of course, professional registered engineers are essential across all industries, really, but particularly in the rail industry, it's a recognition of competence, and lots of RAIB reports, Rail Accident Investigation Bureau reports, quite often refer to competence in an issue, in incidents. Although, of course, professional registration doesn't stop incidents, but it does provide an independent assessment of competence, and that people get registered as competent engineers with Engineering Council. And it's at various levels. So we would encourage people to take the journey with the PWI from EdgeTech right through to Chartered Engineer. And again, it's that message that we want to get out. Join us on that journey, support your career and the careers of others. And in fact, we would also encourage people to get this additional membership. So I've always said to people, you know, call yourself a railway engineer. So why wouldn't you become a member of the railway infrastructure professional body, which is the Permanent Way Institution? So I'm a member of the ICE, and I'm also a member, chartered member, both ICE and Permanent Way Institution. You know, we would encourage that. Why wouldn't you if you're in the rail industry? So it's open to everybody through the PWI, as it is for other institutions, but we'd like to think that we have a flexible and simple route through and well supported. So, struggling with my mouse a little bit, sorry. So benefits, we need to sort of go to people that it demonstrates you've got that professional commitment, and engineering and safety are key issues in our criteria, and these are valued by employers and clients. So it's a good way of demonstrating that you're at the required level, and increasingly international recognition. It's a British professional body under the license of the British Engineering Council, so it demonstrates again your expertise, and British qualifications are very much recognised. Of course, there's the business about having letters after your name. gives you the opportunity to ask for higher earning potential, but some employers might not be so keen on that. But the thing is that you've got this framework working with the PWI, with peers in your railway infrastructure industry to support your career and support your company for the whole of your career. So the thing, of course, is following this with the PWI, everybody wants to take the route must be a member of the PWI, which is obvious, but so we have separate membership that everyone must do, and then you can follow the routes with us. PWI has a service where we can check qualifications if you've got a non-standard qualifications and help advise you on or members wishing to follow professional registration with us. We can advise on what packages are acceptable to what level and what options they've got for progressing from EdgeTech through to CEng. And then the next thing is that for all applications, you need a supporter and a sponsor. And I'll come a little bit more on that later. And it is a simple case of application form, particularly for EdgeTech, but other reports and interviews are required for iEng and CEng. But for all routes, and quite frankly, anyone contemplating the route following professional registration should be looking at having a development plan right now and CPD, a record of continual professional development. So they should have that now, and that's what we would support. So supporter and sponsor then. So I'm sort of pitching a bit today about not just those trying to make the application, but those of us in a sort of senior position, what can we do to support others? And I think, if there's someone, supporter is someone who needs to know the applicant well. So line managers are ideal, or not just supporter, but you can be mentors as well. But this person needs to say how they perform at work. So it needs to, and that person, supporter, doesn't actually have to be professionally registered, but it is essential that it is someone who knows the applicant well. The key thing that most of us can do is be a sponsor. So if we're registered at a key level, so iEng or CEng, you can sponsor anyone at the same level or below. And this is where you can mentor people to go through the attributes to make the right application, check they're doing the right thing, and help someone over the line. So the sponsor needs to know the processes well to help the applicants. It can be the same person, but ideally we would encourage that applicants have two different people. And I think it's good practice, quite frankly, to have two different people reviewing and supporting your application. So you can take the journey on the website. The website is currently being updated, but it can be accessed on the existing website. And from here, you can get the guidance, how to take each route. So from EdgeTech guidance, incorporated engineer, chartered engineer guidance, and then there are the competence and commitment statements associated with each. So each application needs to reflect in detail these competent and commitment requirements, which are themselves taken from the Engineering Council UK spec. This is all being updated because the UK spec has been revised, and new forms and new guidance are coming out or in process being issued now. So this is the key thing people need to be aware of. So spread the word that current applications linked to the old guidance and application forms need to be in by November of 2021, following which all subsequent applications need to be on the new application forms that reflect the UK Spec 4. Now, not a great deal of difference, but there are some subtle differences, and of course there are new forms. So that's the key, really. Anything after November 21 needs to be on the new forms. But the principles to be followed are similar, and I'll go through those. So this role of the sponsor, really, as the mentor to get the person on the journey and through the journey, is key for all routes, but you need it at EdgeTech as well. The sponsor shouldn't be someone who just reviews a form, ticks it off, and it should be someone who works with the applicant, completing the application form. And it is just an application form for EdgeTech, and I'll go into some little bit more detail about that if that helps you. So fill in the form. We are now, so we have review conferences, and this year's reviewer conference sort of thought, well, we want to see the summary of the evidence in the form, but let's see a bit more evidence in appendices. So we want to know about what the individual done, how they've achieved the competence on the form, but a bit of summary about the project or whatever that might be useful background to the reviewer, you can put in as appendices. So quite frankly, on EdgeTech, we've not been seeing perhaps enough appendices. Although some people of course, go to the extreme and give us too many appendices, which is why we look at this sort of level of guidance. So 12 sheets of A4 and 3 sort of drawing sizes A3. But again, as I stressed, everyone needs to have, for all stages, a personal development plan. For EdgeTech, you only need 1 year of CPD records. Well, I like, personally, as a reviewer, I think it's good practice to offer at least 2, but you only need to provide 1. And then it is straight submission to the PWI. You'll then allocate a couple of reviewers. Should get a response within 6 weeks, which should give you one of the following. You need to get a straight pass, and you're registered with the Engineering Council. You may be asked to resubmit with some extra explanation for the reviewers if they've got some points of clarification. Or extremely rarely, this is EdgeTech, if there's a sort of marginal candidate really, is where this has been and has been known, or you might be invited to attend an interview in the UK, or nowadays, of course, we're doing this virtually. So it's an outside possibility that might happen. So just then summarize the EdgeTech competencies. I think perhaps I'll just dwell on these. I won't dwell on this too long, but because the A, B, C, D, and E reflects the Engineering Council UK spec. So A is about demonstrating you know your stuff, and you've done some stuff, if I put it like that. So we're looking for you to give some examples here where you've used science, technical, engineering principles in your work and explain how something works. So that's, you might be, in my case, my civil sort of background, I might be talking more about how interface with structures, drainage, formation works for me, and I might give an example of a small project and my role on it. It has to be, I did this, I know that, I know my stuff here. And then you might describe how a system works. So in my case, might describe the performance of a drainage system, in my case, or someone might talk about how tamping or stressing or welding works. So I've seen a submission at EdgeTech level which talks about fish-bladed joints and how they're maintained and how they work. So, and it was well described, so it's suitable for EdgeTech. Then on to section B, you need to provide some examples where you've actually solved a problem, identify what the cause of the problem is, and what solutions you might produce. It can be something that you looked at, provided, and didn't actually work, and how you learned from it. So, give an example of what surveys you might have made, what design action you took, for example, what construction action you took, what decisions you made. There's a clue there in terms of referring to what materials, resources, and equipment you've used. So there again, demonstrating you know your stuff. So some applications sort of dwell on managing data. They're sort of okay, but it's better here in A and B that we're looking for that you know your stuff and you've done your stuff, ideally in the field, rather than just manipulating data. So just be careful, really. But we do have data sort of management engineers who make applications and are satisfactory for EdgeTech. So then C is about demonstrating your personal responsibility. So you'll see as we get on to I and C and subtle difference. We're looking at how the person's worked with people and without supervision. So there's some debate, for example, about the guy who put in submission about the fish plates. I mean, how much level of supervision was this chappie doing? The point is, he was able to demonstrate he could do it effectively without supervision. He was an expert at it, and he knew his stuff. That one didn't go to interview as a matter of interest, but that point was made in the application. And obviously, it's good if you can demonstrate where you're working with others and if you have some level of experience supervising others. So there's some more mature candidates who might be team leaders who can demonstrate quite clearly how they take responsibility. I mean, accepting some work back into service is a really good example of exercising personal responsibility, making safety decisions. Then experience of communication and interpersonal skills. So what it says there, we're looking for evidence of giving perhaps presentations or briefings, reports, filling out reports, filling out sort of stressing reports is an example, a good example where you might have had to dialogue with suppliers, public, and a key thing people often forget but needs to be emphasized, give some example where you've managed or you're aware of the importance of managing diversity and inclusion. So site welfare facilities for a mixture of people is a really useful example there. And then finally, although it's all wrapped up in one under E, demonstrating your professional commitment, there are 5 areas here that all need to be given the same emphasis as the rest, really, particularly the second one about safety and environment. So first of all, there's a note about demonstrating you comply with PWI Code of Conduct. As much as you can tuck in all this here about compliance with the Code of Conduct is good, but we don't, not really looking for statements saying I comply with the Code of Conduct because I'm a jolly good person. We're looking for sort of, I recognise the importance of competence, and an example where I questioned someone's competence would be perhaps an example. I recognise the importance of being professional when I'm working with the public or something like that. Just examples, not just statements. Then the second point, but the most important in here, it's about demonstrating how you apply safe methods of work, manage risks, not just health and safety risks, but risks to society and the environment. So this is the sort of, if I put it like this, the conscience for saving the planet, doing what we can to reduce carbon emissions, but they must also put in here a statement about how in their work or an example they've prioritise safety above all considerations. So a really good example would be how you've delayed handback for safety reasons and delayed opening to traffic. That's a good example. Or how you blew the whistle during a sub-work program and stopped someone working. That sort of thing is quite a good example of how you personally prioritise safety. So it's those 2 points, which are sort of subsection E2 and E3, are really important to demonstrate. I could get great emphasis from reviewers now. Then on to demonstrate your commitment to personal development. So you need to put some words down about how you prioritise your personal development and how you give importance to continual professional development. That's important there. So that's partly reflecting the Code of Conduct. All these roll up into the Code of Conduct, actually. So you can cross-reference the answers below in the application. You can encourage them to do that. Finally, it's quite clear that you need to provide an example of how you apply ethical principles. So that applicants must not ignore this. Give an example, demonstrate that they understand the importance of ethics, doing the right thing. If they've got a specific example where they might have to blow the whistle for some reason during a tendering exercise or health and safety, someone making the wrong decision, it's even better. So the application form has to address all these items. Every single item should be addressed, and it's ideally, and emphasize it should be within the allowance of space on the form, not to exceed the boxes. So that can be quite difficult. That's what we would encourage all applicants to do. So, sorry, I'm heavy fingered on my mouse. So onto IEng and CEng, then you do need qualifications for these for these applications. For incorporated engineering, you need bachelor degree level, so sort of level 4 UK. I think it's level 5 UK qualifications for bachelor degree, and for chartered engineer, you need an equivalent of a master's degree. So the academic panel, PWI academic panel, can assess a bespoke package for anyone if anyone's not sure. And for all of these applications, IEng or CEng, if you've got demonstrated you've got the qualifications, you then can progress to what's called professional review. Now you have to do a professional review report. There are some exemplars on the website, 3,000 to 5,000 words, and demonstrate you've got all the experience and competencies required. So all those A to E that I mentioned earlier, you need to ensure that the report covers that. There's a separate, I can give separate guidance, and there's another professional development officer in the north, it's Brian Parkinson, who can advise on this. So myself or Brian Parkinson, and there are other reviewers and mentors can help you guide applicants and sponsors and applicants what good looks like in terms of professional review report. And of course you'll get different opinions. What's the best way to approach it? It won't surprise you that I've got my personal preference. So having done the report, you submit that again with the sort of some appendices. Appendices are good at the moment. We like to see those. So getting that right balance. The one thing you get with the PWI and you don't get with other professional bodies is we send it to some scrutineers. So a pair of reviewer peers will have a look at it and say, yes, I like the look of it, or no, can you just tickle this or add a bit there, or no, you've missed something. So you get that sort of second bite really with the PWI, and I'd say to you that's not a bad thing. The other thing, of course, with the PWI you can encourage people is that you get reviewed by peers in your industry. So that's quite interesting. And that, well, I think that's a value, significant value. Then you will be invited to interview when you pass the scrutineers, and you'll get allocated 2 reviewers, at least one of which should be aligned closely to your expertise. So I'm a sort of railway civil engineer, as I touched on before, structures interfacing structures and civils. So I wouldn't be the lead reviewer on someone who's on maintenance and S&C, but I understand about it, of course, with my railway background. So the key thing that I've added today is that this now includes a brief presentation. I think there's a choice of what you can do, but it's encouraged for it to be a safety orientated presentation. But again, we can give, myself, Brian Parkinson, can give separate guidance on the process, the good practice for IEng and CEng reports and interviews. And that's a sort of totally, it's quite an extensive further session if anyone wants that. So the reports and the interview will cover all these again. I've simplified that, so it's demonstrating you know your stuff. So the thing here is the subtlety in C there. It says moved on from what it was for EdgeTech, which is about just demonstrate responsibility. Here you've got to demonstrate at IEng level that you're a manager. Okay, so you're working at a manager level, and at CEng you will demonstrate you're working at a leadership level. So that's the subtlety here. And so the reports need to give examples of knowing your stuff, demonstrating you've done your stuff, solving problems at either sort of what we might expect to be manager level IEng and leadership level CEng. Leadership, sort of innovation, cutting edge, that sort of thing here, that you're working at that level, but you don't necessarily have to be at that level, because you can't, if you haven't got that role in your company, then that still doesn't stop you going for CEng. And then more about demonstrating your communication and interpersonal skills, of course, both inside and outside of industry helps. And then again, under E, those 5 areas about commitment to professional standards, obligations to society with regard to with regard to health, safety, and welfare, the environment, sustainable development is the key word actually, but I should put that in there. Again, that emphasis throughout, really, throughout your reports, the applicants' reports, to demonstrating how they prioritise safety, and you will get asked that at interview. So, excuse me, so that's the sort of what goes into the report, and then you will get interviewed on your report and issues that the reviewers expect you to know beyond your report. So you will get asked about understanding of CDM, for example, on health and safety. You will get asked about understanding on risk assessment and risk management in terms of health and safety. You will be asked about sustainable development and maybe your understanding of the 3 pillars of sustainable development. That will happen. You will get asked about your understanding and examples of managing diversity and your understanding of working ethically. So that's the standard routes. And now I'm going to touch on some of the individual routes. So the technical report option is for someone who hasn't got existing qualifications at level 5 or 6, and it gives people who've been in the industry some time. So we normally expect someone to have been in the industry for about 10 years. To have this underlying working with this technical experience at the either iEng or CEng level. I will say it is more straightforward and easier to go for the technical report option for iEng than CEng, because as I've emphasised, at CEng you're working at leadership, innovation, cutting edge, and you'd get tested on your science, your engineering, and maths at this level. This is not about the soft stuff about managing projects. So the report that you produce here should not dwell on your project experience. It's about demonstrating your knowledge and application and the engineering you've done. So some of the senior guys and girls who've been in the industry and moved to management levels may find it difficult to go back and demonstrate this. So that's something we can talk about if anyone wants to go this route. But it is essential to have a mentor for this route. It is not a breeze. You have to produce a synopsis of what your technical subject is going to be, how you're going to break down your technical report to address the items the reviewers are looking for. There is a separate piece I can give about this if anyone's particularly interested. I've got slides that we can talk about later. But again, this is quite a report, 5 to 10,000 words, looking for formula as appropriate, references, and other supporting technical references here. And then you will be required to attend a technical interview following from this. Excuse me a minute, I'm being interrupted by a road. No, go on, please.
When do you finish?
I do apologise.
When do you finish?
I do apologise, that was a bit of entertainment. Right, the youngest lad who'd been fully briefed not to interrupt, but there you go. I failed on my management assignment. Right, so sorry, where was I? Produce a technical report which says not easy, and we've got lots of sort of ideas for subjects that I can touch on if anyone wants to do that after this main presentation. You will have to attend a technical report interview, and I had mentored a couple of people of this, and I don't want to scare anyone off, but one of the guys I did mentor and successfully passed, I'm glad to say, did say it was the hardest interview he'd ever had. So it's not easy, but this is the alternative route to taking a degree. Bear with me. Thank you. So we have this alternative route now. It's been through what we call pilot trial route. It's the experiential learning route. Now, this is a route to get to chartered engineer from incorporated engineer. So someone's already got a degree, but not an honours degree, and not an MSc, which is now needed at level 6 for CEng, can do this Experiential Learning route, which is a paper-based system, so you don't actually have another interview to get to the CEng interview, unlike the technical report route. So it is, the pilot has been adjusted. The initial pilot had 6 sections that needed to be completed, and I can go into some detail on that if someone's interested, with of course CV and the updated and current CPD and PDP, that's performance, personal development plan, and say no, that's reviewed by some of their reviewers. No interview, you may be asked to provide information. With success rate on acceptance with first submission has been quite low, so we have had to have them bounce back, I think 50%, if not more. So don't expect to breeze through again, but we have had good success for existing incorporated engineers with degrees to progress through to CEng. And then when you've got the nod to go, and that goes through the academic panel, who review the reviewer's review and recommendations, and you're then endorsed to go for the report and interview for chartered engineer. So then you go on to the standard chartered engineer route, producing a professional report, which is career reviewing, not technical so much, and then the interview. Okay, so that's it. But there's a sort of hot off the press for this presentation, really, is that we've now got an option in trial to allow people to go from level 4, 5, so sort of HNC, HND, to get up to incorporated engineer level. So that's sort of level 5, 6, which is really quite exciting. Now that is new. We're learning as the sort of promoters of it as well. I think we may still have the door open for people who want to be involved in this trial exercise. So we've had a trial for the Experiential Chartered, and that the Chartered Experiential is being open to all very soon, with a slightly adjusted application route with lessons learned. But we're now in pilot mode for this. So if anyone's interested in doing the sort of taking the trial route, again, you'll need a mentor for this. And bear in mind that we, the PWI, are working on this option as well. So it'll have its teething problems, but we're very excited about this option. Now, how you progress from iEng, if you go through experiential through to CEng, I can't say at this stage, because I think there's obviously you can see there might be a bit of a reluctance to sort of say, oh, well, we'll go experiential from HNC, HND to iEng, and then someone could say, oh, well, why can't I go experiential from iEng to CEng as well? So I can't answer that, whether you can sort of experientially creep to CEng, but you can go from iEng to CEng, established route now, and we are opening the doors for sort of EdgeTech with HNC, HND to iEng. So that's quite exciting. Right. So I'm going to now, I don't know what your stomach is, how you feel for a bit of detail about CPD, but I think it is important that all stages need this. So I'll try and rattle through this. How am I doing for time? We're okay, but it's very important at all levels. So I've done quite a bit more on this for this presentation, and it's about demonstrating how what activity you do, and this is the key, to maintain your competence and expand the competence. So I can't go through. This applies to everybody, including myself. So it's about expanding capabilities, personal learning, and group learning, actually. So so today's a group learning session, and it should be linked to PDP, but not everything has to be linked to PDP. But we really, everything you do should be recorded. So the PDP, a bit more about that now. So it helps identify and prioritise development activity and its planning. And it's a sort of live tool, really, to set down what one needs to do to develop your knowledge and your skills for your current role. So I clearly need to do more about controlling my youngest boy. So I put that on my PDP, but your future ambitions as well. So it's essential part of the registration journey from at all levels, which is why I'm really majoring on it a bit more this time. You can now record your objectives on the PW website, and I found that quite useful. and I do that. It's good practice review at least annually. I do it annually, but you can add to it. So, for example, I think I went to a conference last year about automated control systems, and I thought, oh, I really need to find out a bit more about that type of signalling. So I went on my PDP that I need to look at that type of signalling and automated control systems. So it's not just about general sort of things about I must pass my EdgeTech, I must pass my iEng, but I think I must investigate that bit of signalling. So we would say, look at where you want to be, encourage applicants to look at what they want to do, where they want to be. It doesn't have to be where they are definitely going, but look at their options, look at their current skills, look at what they'd like to improve, and look at what they need to maintain on their existing skills. So short and long term are good, and this is a key one. Look at the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So, an opportunity at the moment would be HS2, I would think. It's an opportunity, so one might want to learn a little bit more about high-speed track forms and design. So that's something, or construction techniques associated with it as opportunities. And some of the challenges, threats might be, where's the rail industry going in post-COVID? But I think a strength, an opportunity might be looking at electrification and alternative sort of energy power sources. So not just about knowing technical stuff, but hard and soft behavioural needs are needed, and we'll come to that in a minute. Some ideas for that, and then produce your plan. Write down what you think is needed by when. Just want to think about how long is that going to take me? Am I going to need a week off? Am I going to need a year off? And look at that. Do I need to engage with my employer? And then you can start to set down and prioritise, and that helps. So just an overview of what we're talking about CPD. So the guidance now is sort of group activity and personal activity. So this is very much a group activity. My session with ICE this morning was group activity about this new initiative in ICE. Personal activity. So I watched a number of documentaries about hidden areas on the London Underground, which was on Channel 5 fairly recently. That was really interesting. It wasn't super engineering, it certainly wasn't much permanent engineering, but it was a good personal activity as personal development in the rail industry. So that's going down on my CPD. So I'm going to London next week to meet someone, as I say, to travel on my project, the Northern Line Extension. And so I'm going to put that down as a site visit. But I'm also in London hoping to catch up with one of my chaps that I've been mentoring who's looking to go on the experiential route. So I can put that down as well. Okay, so I won't dwell on all those in detail, but it's not just about the sort of what's group and what's individual, but it's, you might want to look up a little bit of materials and methods. What was this chap talking about sleeper soffit pads? I think I'll go online and I'll look up a little bit about that. I might read it in the journal. So that counts. Oh, that was an interesting job that I'm doing a review for IC in a moment about nuclear design. So loads of interfaces on nuclear design. What's that got to do with railways? No, not much, but it is good about interfacing disciplines and how they're working on it on nuclear. That's going to go down on my CPD. Design skills and knowledge. So, maybe I need to learn a little bit more about another type of software or something. Is there a different type of construction management that I need to learn about? So again, this nuclear paper that I'm reading, applicant, there's quite some interesting logistics issues there that I'm finding quite interesting. Always health, safety and welfare. Great session from Nick Millington yesterday, of course, covering that. And then all these aspects about sustainable development I talked about. And then the sort of softer stuff, not hard engineering, but project management, contract law, leadership skills, negotiating skills, and of course presentation skills all count. And then there's sort of on-the-job training and beyond the job training. So these are really key. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to spread the word about development of others. Really important as you get to iEng and CEng, where you can perhaps work with schools, mentor others, participate in. Now, we would really encourage professional bodies. So myself, Colin, really ticking the box here, working with the PWI, so I do bits and pieces with ICE as well. But this is really important and helps, not just PWI and engineering bodies, but community projects. I've got on Sunday to go and help at my local sort of ponds and flood meadows project where we clear pondweed, and I should be down there doing that. I've also got on my diary to help with the local walking festival. And I know lots of people help with scouts. I was at a music festival last weekend. I wasn't organising it, but someone might organise a music festival, and that helps with your personal CPD. Now, I don't want to see too much music festival and no permanent way, but it's all helps and gives that balance and looks good on your CPD. So then finally, we're looking to emphasise what should be recorded. So it needs to cross-reference with your development plan. But of course, some CPD won't actually be with your reflect your personal development plan, because it might just say, "Oh, I didn't know about that." So I joined it like this morning, this ICE thing. It was not my objective to attend this ICE program. I did this morning, so I've got no link really on my PDP. But try and link it to PDP. It demonstrates you're following your PDP. Then there's you record the date, of course, and the activity. Just summarise the activity. Record if it's formal, informal, or group. Actually, I should change this. It's group or personal is what we look now. Is it a group activity or a personal activity? In my check, I didn't check that was a synergy there. And then the effective learning time. So about an hour today. I did an hour and a half this morning with ICE. But this is really important now. The emphasis that we're really so engineering council too, really looking for this. It should include reflection and commentary and evaluation on the activity, and then record it. So this morning was about ICE sort of having a second string to their bow in terms of they want to have registered professional infrastructure engineers. And reflection, my reflection, it was interesting. I guess I would support ICE in promoting professionally registered infrastructure engineers. And I thought the balance of the debate was biased. There was one person talking about not doing it for ICE and 5 people talking about doing it. So there we are, that was my reflection. What will I conclude? When it's offered to vote for ICE, I'll probably support it. I'll also make an observation in my CPD that it might impinge on the PWI's what we're doing. We are railway infrastructure engineers, and I think you don't want to confuse things for people. But there we are. That was me giving my reflection from this morning. So there's the code of conduct, which I'm not going to dwell on. I have other slides, if we've got time, supporting other elements if you wish. So shall I stop sharing for a minute, or shall I leave this on and then see everybody?
Leave that on for the moment, Paul.
And I can jump to slides if anyone wants it.
Yeah. So first, obviously, thank you for quite an enlightening presentation. I know our chairman Phil's put a question in the chat, which I'm not sure if it's been answered, but I'll let Phil ask you that. But before we do that, I guess the start point for newer members to the rail industry potentially is going to be the EdgeTech. So give us an idea, Paul, how much time would people have to commit to secure that qualification? And typically, is it something that can be achieved in a year, 2 years? Give us some feedback on the timings.
Yeah, thanks for that, Colin. Now, yeah, I didn't give you any indication. That's really good. Oh, EdgeTech, you could literally, there's, what do I say? There's A, B, C, D, and E. Section E, there's another 5. If you could probably do, if you did a bit every evening, one bit every evening of that, you could, in 2 weeks, have your form filled out. It's then said you could have that, and you've got to engage with your sponsor and go back and forth. So say a month, you could do that in a month. If you're engaged with your sponsor really knows what they're doing and is giving them good guidance. You could get that completed and into the PWI within a month. Practically 3 months is easy, provided you give the time. It's like everything else. Probably your biggest problem is getting your CPD and personal development plan up to speed if you're not doing it all the time. I'll come back to that in a minute. But so let's say you could get that done in a month, maybe 3, 6 easy. And that gets into the PWI and they review it, and the commitment is to review it and answer within 6 weeks. So I think I noted on the slides there. So because we have the EdgeTech submissions get reviewed by the membership panel remotely from the meetings, and then it gets offered to the Engineering Council. So we're pretty swift for doing that. The ICE, I'm not wanting to compare too much, but the ICE interview all their EdgeTech still. So, but I'm just saying, most other professional engineering institutions do not interview, and so we fall in line with the majority, and we don't interview. So hence it's very swift for EdgeTech. And I would say, and we do say this because there's a fee associated with every step, of course, but we say take the journey from EdgeTech. It gets you thinking A, B, C, D, and E in the terms of those things you have to describe. It gets you thinking that before in terms of your application. Now onto iEng and CEng. So when you go in iEng or CEng, if you've got the qualifications, then you would go straight for CEng. It's a similar length of time for each. So if you've got, I think it's the level 6 qualification, you would go straight for CEng. So you would produce your, engage with the sponsor again, of course. You produce your professional review report, and you would then prepare for your interview. Now, we have 4 sessions a year, I think, roughly, for interviewing. And you could throw together your report, and that's badly put, throw together is not the word. You could put together a professional review report, working with your mentor and sponsor closely in 3 months. But certainly my experience is a year is what's needed really, but 6 months easy if you concentrate on it. And it's a case of discipline that you need to get on with it. So does that answer that?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And the only sort of kind of follow-up question I had off the back of that is, can you start these courses anytime throughout the year, or does it have to start at the beginning of the academic year, typically in September?
Well, when you say courses, the process for making your application can start anytime. The courses that support the top up of any educational needs, qualification needs, of course, they start when the body that promotes the qualification chooses to do it. So actually one thing I omitted to mention is that we, the Permanent Way Institution, provide a fill-in course, the track engineering diploma, that enables someone to move from that HNC, HND level up to iEng without doing the new experiential thing. If you've done the track engineering diploma, that qualifies you, and you passed it, of course, and then I think you have to do a questionnaire to demonstrate that you understand the engineering that you've learned. So despite having taken the course exams, you then have to do a sort of questionnaire to demonstrate you apply it. Then you can apply, you can then get endorsed to go straight for iEng. So that TED course we're now running at least 4 times a year as well. And of course, we're now doing half virtual and half, we're still aiming to do some face-to-face at Derby over the next 12 to 18 months. So it's been quite a good virtual really for us to keep the courses going. And of course, we're now rolling out I call it a track engineering diploma for overhead line for electrification. So I guess it's not track engineering diploma, but electrical track engineering diploma, I guess. Sorry, I'm behind the curve on that one. So yeah, is there any other?
Well, there's a question in the chat that Phil's raised. Phil, do you want to just?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was interested to see that the bachelor degree was the qualification for iEng, because for many years, as long as I can remember, I didn't even know it was a bachelor degree requirement these days. But but for many years it was HNC, HND.
Yeah.
Now you did cover, after I wrote this question, you did start to talk about a pilot. Is it to bring it back, or
Well,
because I
it
don't
has
think
changed.
it's long been the bar's been raised that long, actually, to be honest.
Yeah,
But anyway,
it
yeah,
has
sorry.
changed. Yeah, it has changed actually, Phil. Around about the
Yeah.
turn of the century, around about 2000, I think it might have been 1999.
Yeah, made me feel old. Yeah.
The Engineering Council, yeah, no comment, me too. But the Engineering Council did raise the bar because so anyone who's got HND prior to 1999 can still apply to become IEng via the PWI, ICE, or anyone. So anyone at that level can apply. But HNC, HND post 2000, they now need to have a top up. So we have just, so top up was taking the track engineering diploma course. You can go to college and get top ups to get this level 6 qualification, or we're now offering that they can do this experiential route. And as I say, we're all learning on the experiential route to top up to IEng.
All right, thanks, Paul. That answers it. You kind of partially answered it before I asked the question there. But thanks very much. The other thing I just wanted to add as well, you mentioned right at the start about the ICE branching out to increase membership. Is that something you can say a little bit more about, or is it?
Yeah, I guess so.
To include PWI, or is that other engineering disciplines or something? Yeah.
No, it's only happened to be on that. It was quite a good example for me to talk about it, just to demonstrate personal CPD. But it's quite interesting that the ICE is looking. So they've got at the moment. So I'm a CEng, chartered engineer, MICE. So chartered. So I'm a chartered civil engineer, and I can call myself a chartered civil engineer. I'm also CEng, and I did it through what's called the additional route with the PWI. I was able to persuade the reviewers at the PWI that I know enough about fastenings and track that I could be agreed to be a chartered permanent way engineer. Some people look down their nose at me at that, but there you go. But I just had to put back in what I got out of the railway industry, as you can know. But so I'm very proud to be a chartered permanent way engineer. We also have that strapline, don't we? That is the Institution for Railway Infrastructure Engineers. And that is where I really do stick my hand up and say, that's me. Because there's no doubt, and you ask colleagues I've worked with, and I'm extremely proud of this, that I am a railway infrastructure engineer. So that's where we're going in the right direction for the PWI, and feel quite strongly about that. But it was interesting that the ICE have now identified that we've got chartered civil engineers, but we do have a lot of people applying to the Institution of Civil Engineers who actually are on the fringes of civil engineering. They're working on civil engineering projects, but their underlines or discipline might be sort of more systems in terms of power routes, cable routes, and interfaces, someone talking about monitoring systems, for example, or movement of tunnels, walls, track movement. And that's quite a good point. Why would the ICE open their arms to infrastructure engineers who aren't pure civil engineers, who might have degrees in other disciplines? So that's what that was about this morning. And we, PWI, are doing just that by opening our arms to our overhead line equipment colleagues. I'm promoting and supporting a chap who does indeed do a lot of monitoring of tunnels and track systems in terms of movements, and he's interested in becoming a chartered engineer through the PWI.
Great.
And so
thanks.
You sort of doing similar. Another
Sorry,
institution.
I just wanted to give other people an opportunity to ask questions, Paul. I don't know whether there's any other questions. Don't want to hog it all, Is there any questions? Anybody else want to ask?
There isn't any questions in the chat, so for any of the...
Shall I stop sharing for now?
Yeah, I think that'll be okay, Paul.
Shall I close, Colin? I don't know whether...
Yeah, I think.
Can I just make one other observation though? The thing here really is, and it's great to see that there's a few of us here, but it's to spread the word. And myself is available. Brian Parkinson in the north is available, although the beauty of the virtual world is either of us can talk to anyone. But it's about, we're also keen to get sponsors and mentors, and sponsors and mentors need to understand the routes and options as well. So don't be afraid to sort of push, cajole, encourage not only applicants but sponsors and mentors to spread the word and become rail infrastructure engineers. I think you'll probably all agree with me on that, yeah?
Absolutely, Paul, and well said. So there's no more questions. So Paul, thank you for your time. I'm going to pass over to Phil to do the vote of thanks. Phil, over to you.
Yeah, Paul, thanks very much for coming along and giving us the presentation today. There's not an awful lot of people on the call, but I think that the fact that we can take what you've said and we can give advice to young engineers, particularly who are keen to get this qualification, or perhaps we need to persuade them a little bit. You know, but I mean, it's great information that you've provided us with that we can go on now and spread the word further with, you know, armed with that information. So, yeah, it was a good presentation, covered the subject well as far as I could see. And it's great that the PWI got somebody like yourself that's dedicated to being an ambassador for this, and you know, so that people have got somebody they can reach out to. So thanks for coming along and giving us the time today, Paul. Much appreciated. And yeah, look forward to catching up with you sometime in the future.
Yeah, it would be good. It's a pleasure. Thanks very much. And so don't forget, spread the word. They can contact me. My details and Brian Parkinson's are in the journal and on the website, I think. Yeah. Okay. I'm always there.
And of course, Paul, this meeting's been recorded, so it will go on the PWI website probably in a few weeks' time. So I've had a few texts and emails come through this morning. People on holiday, people with IT issues couldn't get on today, so I'm sure they'll pick that up as soon as it goes live. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Phil, for the vote of thanks. And just a gentle reminder, Tuesday the 12th of October is our next meeting, and that will be Peter Barber presenting his paper on the various track forms that he's experienced over the last 30, 40 years. So thanks again, everyone. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you all again soon.
Thank you.